What's up, peeps? Nick Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. First off, if you like this content that is coming to you on this YouTube channel, go hit that subscribe button. Go like and comment on all my videos. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, give me a 5-star review, some comments, some likes. It means a lot. Helps me get more content out to you guys, some more sponsors. But today, guys, we're going to talk about the Texas Spring Game. I am going to deep dive into it and give you guys some deep down analysis of my Nino's Corner number, the NCN. So for all you folks who are listening to this as a first-time listener, I'm going to give you just a little bit of insight on what the NCN is. The Nino's Corner number, or NCN, is basically a QBR for offensive skill positions, whether it's the wide receiver, the tight end, or the running back. I'm also going to track, some successful plays in that metric when it comes to the quarterbacks also. So we're going to get into some deep dive, just metrics and analysis when it comes to Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. But getting back to the NCN, guys, it's like a QBR for the offensive skill positions, tracks the effectiveness, the efficiency of these players. And I have a bunch of metrics that I actually use, whether it is successful plays, explosive plays, TDs per target, explosive plays per target, first downs per target, first downs, total yardage, the whole nine. There's like 9 different variables that I have in this metric that I use to calculate an efficient number for the different offensive skill position players. So once you guys hear me talk about NCN, just notice that it's the Nino's Corner number, and that tracks the efficiency and the effectiveness of offensive skill players. So hey, since I've already told you guys about all of this, let's go ahead and get into the metrics. All right, folks, let's get it started with the wide receivers. So if anybody would have told you that the best Texas wide receiver during the spring game was going to be Kai Money, if they told you that prior to the Texas spring game happening, you need to tell that person to go buy some lottery tickets today, because they are a very lucky person. Let's go ahead and get into these metrics, man. Kai Money, he had an NCN for the receivers, guys, 76.11. That's an astounding number. That is great. That is awesome. He had 7 targets. He had 6 receptions, 85.71 catch percentage, 79 yards, 11.2 yards per target, and 13.7 yards per reception. Not only did he have that, guys, but Kai Money basically had 32 yards after contact, or YAC, and his YAC yardage equated for 40.5% of his total yardage. He had no drops, which basically equated to no drops per target or reception. The next guy on the list who came in as the second best wide receiver during the spring game was Avante Woodard. So very proud to see that he has stepped up in the spring game. He's one of those guys that has been cooking here in the kitchen for a while, man. He came out of high school as a highly touted wide receiver, but his NCN was a 55.49, 5 targets, 4 receptions for an 80% catch percentage, 43 yards, guys, 8.6 yards per target, 10.75 yards per reception. He also had, when it comes to YAC, Avante Woodard had 21 yards of YAC, which equated to 48.84% of his total yardage. And he also had no drops. Now let's go to the next guy in the line, guys. We just talked about Avante Woodard at 55.49. The next wide receiver, when it comes to the NCN, was Jordan Whittington, 49.05 NCN receiving. Now, guys, mind you, let me just tell you guys, the NCN, the average NCN for an offensive skill player position is 40 points. So anything above 40 is above average. So Kai Money, him having that 76.11 was extremely above average. Avante Woodard, 55.49, was better than any wide receiver last season. As a totality for the 2020 season. But Jordan Whittington, 49.05, guys, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 71.43 catch percentage. He had 55 yards, 7.86 yards per target, 11 yards per reception, and he had a bunch of YAC too. When we talk about Jordan Whittington, what I like about him, he had 17 yards of YAC, 30.91 percentage when it comes to his YAC yards. Guys like him, guys like the Kai Money guys that, like that play in that slot, even though Jordan Whittington didn't really play in the slot this game, but they're like running backs with the ball in their hands. It's just good to see that once these guys get the ball in their hands, they make plays after the play. He also had no drops. Next guy in line after Jordan Whittington with the 49.05. The next guy in line, guys, it's going to be Moochie, man. Cavante Dixon, 3 targets, 1 reception. So a 33.33% catch percentage. 23 yards, 7.67 yards per target, 23 yards per reception. Moochie, just with that 1 catch, man, I don't think he had too much of yak after this 1 catch. I think Moochie only had, let's take a look. Cavante Dixon, he only had 4 yards of yak for an average of 17.39% of his total yardage. He had no drops. All right, next guy in line is Troy Murray. Great to see Troy Murray back on the field, guys. He had 3 targets, 1 reception, 33.33%, 22 yards, 7.33 yards per target, 22 yards per reception. The good thing about Troy Murray, guys, we all know that he is coming off of that ACL injury last year. He had 6 yards after contact, so an average 27.27 yak yards for his total yards. He had no drops either, but good to see. He was wearing a black jersey though, so a no contact jersey, but he looked good out there, fluid, very tall kid, 6'3", 6'4", 200 and I think 22 to 225 pounds. Just a good prospect out there. I can't wait to see him here this season. And our last wide receiver that I'm going to cover on this list, guys. Well, no, not my last, but my second to last. Let's talk about Marcus Washington. He had 38.9 NCN receiving, 4 targets, 2 receptions, guys, 26 yards. One thing about Marcus Washington that I liked in this game, caught some very tough balls that we will get to in the next part of this section. He had 8 yards of yak, so 30.77% of his total yards were yak yards after catch. And he had 1 drop. And that was a pretty crucial job there on the first drive from Hudson Card. But he redeemed himself, and we'll talk about that later on. And the last person we're going to talk about is a guy that we wanted to have so much hype for this year. And I know it's just a spring game, it's just 1 game, so don't take too much with this. But Josh Moore, 23.43 NCN receiving, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 60% catch percentage, 34 yards, 6.8 yards per target, 11.33 yards per reception, guys. So he also he had 8 yards of yak, equating to 23.53 total yards. He had 1 drop also. So his drops per target is 20% and drops per reception 33.33%, guys. So if we go back and look and just rank these guys, Kai Money 76.11 for the NCN. The next person in line was Savante Woodard at 55.49. Next person in line was Marcus Washington at 38.9. Next person is Cavante Dixon, 38.69. Then Troy Murray with 38.38. And sorry, guys, Jordan Whittington was actually 3rd with 49.05. And then Josh Moore at 23.43. All right, guys, let's go. And we're going to talk next, and on the next side of this, about the first downs per target and where these Texas players ranked. All right, folks, now we're going to talk about first downs per target. And hey, guess who's ranked number 1 for wide receivers on first downs per target? Yes, guys, if you guessed Kai Money, it was right. 7 targets, 5 first downs for 71.43% first downs per target. The next person on this list when it comes to wide receivers at 60% is Savante Woodard. 5 targets, 3 first downs. The next person on this list, folks, is 50% Marcus Washington, 2 first downs on 4 targets. The next person, guys, is Jordan Whittington at 42.86%. So 3 first downs on 7 targets. And then we're going to go down to Josh Moore, 2 first downs on 5 targets for 40%. And we had 2 people tied for the last spot there, 33.33%. 1 first down on 3 targets for Troy Murray, as well as Cavante Dixon. All right, let's go to the next side, guys, and we're going to talk about explosive plays per target here on the next side. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dig into these explosive plays and these successful plays per target. All right, guys, explosive plays per target. Who led Texas with explosive plays per target? It was Kai Money at the wide receiver position. 3 explosive plays on, I guess, 7 targets for 42.86%. The next person in line was at 33.3%. We had 2 people tied for that, and that was Troy Amiri, and that was Kevontae Dixon. 1 explosive play on 3 targets. The next person in line there, guys, is going to be Jordan Whittington at 2 explosive plays per 7 targets at 28.57%. And then it goes down to 25%. Marcus Washington, 1 out of 4 targets. And 20% tie for last place with Josh Moore, as well as Avante Woodard, 1 out of 5 targets. Guys, now when we talk about explosive plays you want to have, you want to try to get around that 20% range. If you can get just at that 20% range, you're doing something good. So that's what we like to see when it comes to the explosive plays. That is pretty high for a wide receiver, but let's try to get it up there between the 15 to 20% range. And we're looking at a really good prospect when it comes to the wide receiver position for the totality of a season. Now let's go over to the successful plays, okay, folks? Who was the most successful wide receivers when it comes to successful plays? And when I talk about successful plays, folks, what I'm saying is on first down, you're getting at least half the distance that you need to get a first down. On second down, you're getting at least 70% of that yardage. And on third down, you're getting at least, no, not at least, you got to get all the yardage needed to get a first down to be successful. And on fourth down, you got to get all the yardage to be successful. So successful plays, 6 out of Kai Money's 7 targets were successful, 85.71% successful play per target. Now, once we go up here, we got 2 people here tied at 60% successful plays per target. That's Josh Morton and that's Avante Woodard at 3 out of 5 targets were successful in nature. Jordan Whittington at 3 out of 7, 42.86%. And we had a couple folks tied at 33%, Kevontae Dixon and Troy Amiri. So 1 out of 3. And we actually had 2 guys that were, no, 1 guy at 50%, that was Marcus Washington. So what is that? 2 out of 4 targets were successful plays. So if we go ahead and rack and stack these again, Kai Money at number 1 at 85.71%. Followed by Avante Woodard at 60%, and then followed by Josh Moore at 60% as well. Then followed by Marcus Washington at 50%, then Jordan Whittington at 42.86%, and then Troy Amiri and Kevontae Dixon rounding out at 33.33%. All right, next we're going to talk about the tight ends. So when it comes to the tight ends and receptions, we all know that the tight end position is one of the hardest positions when to actually score on an NCN or any kind of grading scale, because just the limited amount of touches that the tight ends get, unless you have a guy like Travis Kelce or Kittle or somebody of that stature who is the go-to number 1 wide receiver / tight end on a team. But when it comes to the spring game, guys, the leading tight end when it came to the NCN was Gunnar Helm with 141.06. Just truly outstanding, guys. 1 target, 1 reception, 41 yards on that. A throw by Kai Money, by the way. He had, of course, a first down. It was a successful play. It was an explosive play also. He had 8 yards after catch. Of course, no drops because he was 1 for 1. So yeah, it's just very hard. So I'm just, I'll just go through this pretty quickly when it comes to the NCNs. The next person in line, guys, when it comes to tight ends, you got to give props, man. I was very impressed with Juan Davis, man. 2 out of 2. So 2 targets, 2 receptions, 100% catch percentage, 24 yards, 1 first down for Juan Davis, as well as 1 explosive play, and both the plays that he caught were successful plays in nature. But out of those yardage he got, 23 of his yardage was yak yards, meaning that 95.8% of his yards were actually yak yards. I like Juan Davis a lot. I think he's going to be somebody pretty good. He's a very fluid guy, very fluid athlete. I remember seeing him in high school, and he played all over the field. So Juan Davis is one of those guys that's going to be somebody that's going to be very productive and properly stretch the field for us here at the tight end position. Next tight end is the guy that I'm the president of this guy's fan club, and that's Jared Wiley. 76.56%, not percent, but 76.56 for NCN receptions, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 100% catch percentage, 20 yards, Okay, of course, 10 yards per target and also 10 yards per reception, 1 first down, 1 explosive play, and 2 successful plays, guys. And he had 3 yards after catch. Usually he has a lot of yards after catch, but but these plays were just designed for him to get to the sideline and just kind of get these plays, it's over and done. But Jared Wiley is a beast. I think he's going to be a guy that should be playing a lot here on the 40 this year and next year as well. And the next guy on the list, guys, is Cade Brewer. Cade Brewer, 1 target, 1 reception. He had an NCN receiving of 65.78. So 100% catch percentage, 6 yards, guys, 1 first down, 1 successful play, no explosive plays, of course, because no plays were over 15 yards, and he had no yak. So Cade Brewer is just old, consistent. He's going to get you what it needs to get to move the chains, and there's nothing wrong with that. Next guy on the list is Braden Liebrock. He had a minus 3.59. That's because he only had 1 target. He had no receptions. So no receptions on 1 target. So a negative 3.59. And the last person on the list is Malcolm Epps, who we just found out is entering the transfer portal. Just seeing the talent that's above him with the Gunnar Helm, with the Juan Davis, with Cade Brewer coming back, and also with a Jared Wiley. So he had a negative 44.39. He had one reception on 2 targets, guys, 2 yards, no first downs, of course, no explosive plays. For Malcolm Epps, no successful plays, and he had a drop. The drop is what brought that number down drastically. But that is the tight end position, folks. And now we're going to go into the running back position. All right, folks, for the running back positions, we actually calculate an NCN total, right? So the NCN total is the combination of the NCN rushing and the NCN receptions. So it's 85% NCN rushing plus the 15% for the NCN receptions, and that gets you the NCN total for a running back. So it basically showcases running backs who could be that dual threat running backs who can be that running back that can be a 3-down back, a guy who can be in first down and second down pounding the ball, but also stay on the field and catch the ball from the backfield. Sort of like your Christian McCaffreys, your Alvin Kamara's, running backs of that nature and that stature. So when we talk about these running backs, we're going to talk about the NCN rushing first, and then we're going to break down to the NCN receptions. And then after that, we're going to talk about the NCN totals for those who qualified to actually have an NCN total based upon the number of targets and receptions that they got in the reception game. All right, folks, when it comes to the NCN for the running backs, let's go ahead and start off with our bell cow here, and that's Bijan Robinson. He had an NCN rushing, guys, of 75 points, which is just very high for a running back, guys. I don't think you guys just understand how successful that is for a running back. He had an NCN receptions of 43.05. When you do the calculation to get the NCN total, you're getting 70.03. Very efficient for a guy like Bijan Robinson. You can't knock it. Actually, his NCN rushing was 74.79. Next guy on the list, guys, we're going to talk about Roschon Johnson. He had a 34.45 NCN rushing. When you take a look at his NCN receiving, he actually led all the running backs in the NCN receptions at 46.82 points. When you do the calculation for him, his total NCN total comes out to a 36.303, which we got to take a grain of salt with that. Let's look at Rojo. Rojo played with the second team offense, so he had second team offensive line. We know that the second team defensive line is at a better stage right now than that second team offensive line. So Rojo didn't get a chance to run behind those big uglies on the first team like Bijan did. And the next guy we're going to talk about on this list, and that is Gabriel Watson. Gabriel Watson had a NCN rushing, folks, of 57.28. And he had an NCN receiving of negative 7.09. And we'll get into some of those reasons why his NCN receiving was so bad. But yeah, his total NCN was a 47.63. What I liked about Gabriel Watson, he is the FCS transfer, if I'm not mistaken. He's a pretty big guy, about 6 foot or 6'1", about 235 pounds. He's a bulldozer. It's the kind of player that we're going to see Rojo be in this season. He's going to be that bulldozer going behind that first team offensive line. That's what Gabriel Watson was going on. Now, if we take a look at some of the reception stats for these folks, let's take a look at Gabriel Watson. We talked about him with a negative 7.09. And the reason why, he had 6 targets, 3 receptions, but he had 2 drops. Okay, 21 yards, 2 first downs. All three of his catches were successful plays, and he had 18 yards after contact. So the majority of his yards after contact, meaning that he got them, or I'm sorry, yards after catch, meaning that most of those yards were at the line of scrimmage and forward. So little swing routes and things of that nature. But he had 2 drops. That's what brought his number down so much. Let's take a look at Rojo, who actually led all the running backs when it comes to the NCN receiving at 46.82. Rojo had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 100% catch percentage, 17 yards, 1 first down when it comes to the receiving. Let's see what else he had. 1 successful play and 13 yards after catch. So pretty much the majority of his yards, 13 out of those 17 yards, were yards after catch. And Bijan had a 43.05 NCN receiving, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 28 yards, 1 first down, 3 successful plays, and 28 yards after catch. So all of his yards were yards after catch, meaning they were either balls caught at the line of scrimmage or behind it, and he had no drops. But yeah, those are the NCN totals, the NCN receptions, and the NCN rushing for those 3. We also had one other person, Daniel Young, who came back. He opted out last season due to COVID, and he didn't have enough stacks to qualify him for the NCN receptions, but he did have enough stats for NCN rushing. 18.47 was his NCN rushing, so 4 attempts, 8 yards, 2 yards per attempt, no first downs, no explosive plays, no successful plays, no fumbles, but he was going also with that second team offensive line. So let's take a look, and we're going to talk about these guys' first downs and the first down per target rate. So Bijan, his first down per target rate, let's take a look. First downs, Bijan had, it's like 2 first downs on 9 attempts, which basically put him at a 22.22% first down per attempt. The next guy on the list is Roschon Johnson. He had 0 first downs, guys, so 0 first down per attempt. And Gabriel Watson had 3 first downs, and those 3 first downs put Watson at a percentage. 3 out of 9 is 33.33% first downs per attempt, and that's what you want that number to be for a running back. It's around the 30 to 33% mark, because you want your running back to be able to, every 3rd carry, have a first down. So if I trust my running back enough, I can give that guy the ball 3 times in a row, and I know he's going to give me a first down. That's 33.33%, 1 out of 3 carries. That's what you want. Now let's take a look at the last category here. We're going to talk about the successful plays per attempt. The successful plays per attempt. Bijan Robinson had, let's take a look. How many successful plays did Bijan have? Let's take a look at this number here. We're looking at 5. He had 5 successful plays on those 9 attempts for a 55.6 successful play per attempt average. Next guy on the list is Rojo. He had 1 successful play on his 8 attempts for a 12.5% successful play per attempt. The next guy on the list, guys, is going to be Gabriel Watson. 7 out of his 9 plays were successful plays, 77.8%. I was really intrigued with Watson. I like to watch him play. Like I said, he was just a fire plug. He got in the hole and he did some damage. He always had a bunch of yards after contact also. But I think that role is going to be delegated down there to Rojo this upcoming season, and Watson's going to be that guy. It's going to be a short line, goal line guy, possibly on the goal line to go get us some touchdowns. But guys, Let's go ahead and take a pause here for a minute, and I'll come back and we'll wrap up on all these stats and what this means for this team. All right, folks, now we're going to talk about the quarterback position. And I don't do NCNs for the quarterbacks because there's already a metric out there called the QBR, right? But what I do for them is the success rates. Now, I already explained to you guys what a successful play is, right? Half of the amount of yardage on first down, 70% of the yardage on second down to get a first down. Then on third and fourth down, you got to get 100% of the yardage needed on those downs for that play to be successful. So when we're looking at these successful plays, when it comes to the passing and the rushing, when it comes to Hudson Card and Casey Thompson, Casey Thompson's passing successful plays was at 48%. The average for NCAA that I've been doing here for the past 4 or 5 years has been around 40%. When it comes to the passing game for Hudson Card, he was above average also at 43%. So he had a success rate of 43% compared to Thompson's 48%. When it comes to the rushing side of the house, Thompson had 100% success rate when it comes to rushing, and Hudson Card's was 0. All right, but guys, what does this mean? It means that the total success rate for Casey Thompson is around 49%, and the total success rate for Hudson Card was at 39%. This means absolutely nothing, people. Don't get in a frenzy about this. Hudson Card played with the second team offense and the second team offensive line. He had a little bit more pressure on him than Casey Thompson did. Casey played with the first team. It looked like he was a little bit more poised there in the first half. He had a drop ball from Josh Moore for a touchdown that would have boosted his stats up a little bit more, but it is what it is. And Hudson Card actually was a little bit rattled, I think, in the first half, but really come down in the second half and had some really good throws. Touchdown pass to Marcus Washington. That was the thing of beauty. So we take a look at one more stat before we head out of here today, guys. We're going to take a look at the quarterback passing success rate per down. So on first down, Hudson Card had a success rate of 50% compared to Casey's 57%. All right. On second down, Hudson Card had a success rate of 43% compared to Casey's 60%. And on third down, they both fell below the NCAA average of 40%. Hudson Card had a 14% success rate compared to Casey Thompson's 27%. And on fourth down, this is where Hudson Card shined. If I'm not mistaken, he had that one play that went for a touchdown on fourth down, or it was a first down. Either way, it was a successful play, 100% success rate on fourth down compared to Casey's 0%. What does this mean, guys? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The only thing that we should be worried about is that nobody got injured in this game, but I know that we all want to freak out about something when it comes to Texas football, especially the spring game and the quarterbacks. So on to the next side of the section, guys, where we're going to wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys for sitting here and listening to the NCN stats. You guys know I kind of geek out on the stats, but I'm glad that you guys were able to listen and understand just some of these stats and some of the ways that we get these numbers to come up. And just, just a little bit of overreaction from a spring game that means nothing. But I know you guys were going to like this and enjoy the stats. People love numbers and stats, but I can't wait to track this stuff for you guys here in the upcoming season. It's going to be an amazing season. Like I said, I've been tracking this NCN, this NinosCorner number here for the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a really good journey doing that. But yeah, it's going to be a great season. I can't wait to track it. I can't wait to see what Sark's offense is going to look like and how these players are going to actually adapt to this offense. But I do have some news to actually tell you guys. When it comes to the NCN number, I got some good things that I'm cooking up here for you guys that should be ready in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. But it's gonna all revolve around the NCN number, and it's gonna be something big to where it'd be something that can showcase this on a daily and a weekly basis. So more news to follow on what I got coming out. I can't wait to share with you guys. But like I always tell you guys, man, we're gonna end this. I always tell you guys, do you, man. Don't be afraid to fail, outgrow your environment, understand your brilliance. And on that note, guys, salute to you guys, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to the channel. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys about these stats. Like I say, these are stats that are nothing because it's a spring game, but it's going to be something when it comes to the season. So thank you guys for rocking with me on this, man. I appreciate you guys, man. NinosCorner, I'm out.